Imagine a world where there is no hunger or thirst, where any object that exists in reality, or could possibly exist, could be obtainable in your own home, where your imagination could become reality, and so much more. And this world could be obtainable in our lifetime because the foundations for it are already here.
In a world where technology is vilified and seen as a threat, it's time someone stems the tide of the anti-technological view and shows the world the benefits of technology and how it will become our technological salvation.
Of course, at this point, it's obvious from the title of the video and the intro, I'm referring to 3D printers, a technology which is older than you probably realize, as 3D printers can be traced all the way back to the 1980s. The basic concept of 3D printers is creating a 3D object using melted plastic or metal powder that is fused together using intense heat. But they can also print food using basic ingredients and body parts using cells. They can also print houses using cement. But this is clearly just the beginning of the technology, as with all technology at first. Standard 3D printers are expensive, and they can just print using basic materials for now. But I believe this is merely the beginning. Just look at the advancements of the television, home computer, phone, and video games. Given enough time and popularity, the technology could radically change over the next couple of decades. 3D printing technology, if advanced enough, could change everything far more radically than most of the previous technologies I've listed. If you really contemplate the possible future of 3D printing technology, the possibilities seem limitless, and here's why. As the technology progresses, it will become more advanced and will be able to print using more materials. Through this process, it seems likely to me that one day they'll be able to print objects molecule by molecule or atom by atom, making it possible to basically recreate anything, and I do mean anything. Let me tell you what all I could imagine. For one, you could print water molecules out of basic hydrogen and oxygen, or you could simply take dirty water or salt water and remove the H2O molecules from everything else, making clean water for everyone, no matter where you lived. And of course the same could be done with food, just using basic materials to create any food, any size you wanted. There would be no need for growing crops or ending the life of an animal or plant, as you could basically use basic elements recycled over and over again. Just imagine you could taste any food that ever existed or could exist, cooked by the world's greatest chefs and perfectly recreated in your 3D printer. No more trips to the grocery store unless you needed to buy raw materials, but no more need for refrigeration or cooking, as your 3D printer would do it all for you, cooking your meal perfectly each time. And that would clear out space in the kitchen because there would be no longer a need for a refrigerator or oven. Not to mention we all could eat healthier because you could actually create real sugar instead of corn syrup, and expensive healthy food would basically be free like all food at that point. And of course no more spoiled food because it wouldn't exist as food until you printed it when you were going to eat it. I could go on, but I told myself that I had to keep the part on food relatively short. And of course the customizability of our clothing, furniture, and electronics are endless. Basically updating your phone, computer, or gaming console would be free. In fact, you could just recycle all of your electronics into a new advanced version. You could simply remove your hard drive or download the data into something else temporarily while you created your new device. No more having to find clothing at the store. You could custom fit all your clothing and make it look however you wanted. And the same could be done with your furniture, your imagination and the imagination of other people being the limit. Anything you could ever want that could be printed, you could have or modify however you see fit. If you wanted an exact replica of an NES and a pristine copy of The Legend of Zelda, but you wanted a custom paint job that you created yourself, you could have it. If you wanted some antique like a record player or some 18th century invention, it could be yours and you could change it however you liked. No more having to buy stuff at the store. Instead, you could just buy things online, then print the object. There's already a website that allows you to do this if you have a 3D printer. The one thing you may have to buy occasionally, obviously, is the raw materials, and they would be fairly cheap. And that's when you wanted something that can't be recycled, like some new furniture in your house. Or you wanted more stuff in general without scrapping something else. And if the raw materials were expensive, everything would be cheaper because everything would be so easily created and everyone would be saving by simply recycling for the most part. And more importantly than just stuff in your house, you could print new body parts. In fact, if you lost an arm, just print you a new one. If you lost an organ, just print you a new one. Want your foreskin back? Just print you a new one. I would, and I'm being completely serious. And you could do this with any body part. And the body part would be an exact replica of the body part you lost, or could replicate a body part you never had, but genetically it would be yours. And simply put, everything would be recyclable. Dumps would become virtual gold mines of material. Instead of throwing out your trash, you would just put it into your 3D printer and un-3D print it. Or the more proper wording would be to break it down into its raw materials to be reused again. This could also be a way of cleaning dishes if you wanted to keep the dishes, or you could just recycle them, and the same could be done with clothing or anything for that matter. It would technically be safe if the system was advanced enough, as it would be constructed molecule by molecule or atom by atom. So no bugs, germs, or animal waste, which would technically make all food products and 3D printed materials completely sterile and 100% safe. And of course we could do the same with sewage. It would be no longer dumped but recycled. So in theory, you could just recycle your wastewater and material and make it into your food over and over again indefinitely. Which would be fine, but probably gross most people out, so we may have to purposely keep the fact that we do this obscure, despite it being 100% safe, with the method explained of above, and it already happening in nature, but being much slower. The way this will change the world, besides ending world hunger, thirst, and making everything 100% recyclability, will improve our lives greatly. I can see a world where farms are no longer needed, and acres of farmland can be suburbs with several dozen or hundreds of feet in between the houses. You could be living in the middle of a city, but it would look like you lived in the middle of nowhere, and houses could be huge because of this, or we could just give the land back to nature if we don't need it. Factories and stores would basically no longer exist, except for factories that obtained raw materials or created buildings and other larger objects. Stores still may be needed just to print bigger things, like furniture and cars, and maybe if you were out of town and you needed something, you would just pay to use the store's 3D printer and get whatever you wanted. And of course, this would make every person an inventor with unlimited resources at their fingertips, thus creating a mass technological boom unlike this world has seen before, advancing our technology much faster and at a possible exponential rate. Scientific progress would no longer be halted by expense, and scientists/inventors could keep inventing and perfecting their inventions over and over again. And of course we would all live better than most millionaires, with our greatest desires at our whims, and nearly limitless resources to use as we please. But this is just me speculating, and perhaps this is just a pipe dream. Or maybe I'm not too far off, but who knows? I'm sure someday we'll find out.